Hi there, I'm Richard Hill, the host of eCom at One. Welcome to episode 195. It's 195 weeks in. In this episode, I speak with Lucy Robinson. From several years working agency side, she's now the head of marketing at Skin, Sexual Health and Creative Conceptions, taking her agency knowledge to the sexual health and adult toys market. We chat leveraging TikTok and what not to do, the power of SEO and how important it's been for their fast growth, which channels the brands have had the most success with and where they're focusing right now, events and partnerships. We cover a lot of ground in this one. If you enjoyed this episode, hit the subscribe or follow button wherever you are listening to this podcast so you're always the first to know when a new episode is released. Now, let's head over to this fantastic episode. How you doing, Lucy? You okay?
I'm all good, thank you. How are you, Richard?
I'm really well. Well, I think the best thing would be for you to introduce yourself, tell our listeners how you got into the world of e-commerce and what you're doing now, and then we'll get into the Q&A.
Yeah, sounds good. So I'm Lucy Robinson. I actually finished uni in Lincoln, where we are today, in 2020. Came out straight into the pandemic, so that was fun. Had a job lined up, a graduate scheme, that went straight out the window because it was in the tourism industry, which obviously was impacted really badly. So I'd put something out on LinkedIn at the time saying, I was looking for work and got approached by an e-commerce agency in Lincoln and was there for a few years.
Yep.
Moved on to another marketing agency and then at the start of this year decided to make the move into in-house.
Yeah.
So I've always had a background in agency. Yeah. But I fancy something a bit different. And different it is.
This is a little bit different, which our listeners will be like, what are they talking about? But we'll come to that in a minute. So we're surrounded almost by a host of paraphernalia, if that's the right term or not. But those that are watching the video might get a sneaky edit right now for a feel of what sort of products you sell. But before we go there, so you left uni. Yeah. Pandemic kicks in. You're like, oh man, we're doing a tourism degree, marketing tourism?
Advertising and marketing.
Advertising and marketing.
Yeah.
Oh, safe bet.
It was a tourism marketing company that I was going to head into.
So a tricky time, but good old LinkedIn stepped in, did they? The sort of community LinkedIn and sort of and you got an opportunity to work for what is a local agency to us, and then went to another agency and now in-house. So you've had sort of 3 or 4 years at agency life. And now in-house, obviously, we talk a lot about agency life, in-house. Maybe we'll ask you which is better, but you're probably still very much on that journey. I
think I've got my answer, but give it a bit longer.
So thank you for that. Now, I think it'd be great for you to sort of introduce the brands you work for. Obviously, you work for 2 brands. One is Skin, Sexual Health and Creative Conceptions.
Yeah.
Do you want to step us through what you do there?
Yeah, of course. So Skin Sexual Health it was started originally to sell condoms. It's since moved into more of a sexual wellness brand. So our aim with Skin Sexual Health really is to provide sexual wellness products across the globe that are affordable, accessible, high quality. A lot of our audience for skins are pharmacies. More recently, we've been moving into the mainstream as well. So you'll find us in Boots and Superdrug and numerous other avenues. And for Creative Conceptions, that is an adult brand. So our mission with Creative Conceptions is to provide a really innovative assortment of adult products. So the industry is always changing. So keeping up with it, bringing out new products. And my boss has the lady who set up the company, Jane, she has a really good way of putting it. It is we work in the business of making people happy. Yeah. So saving relationships, helping people to build their confidence, to feel good about themselves. Yeah. And it's a nice way to put it.
I bet it's quite a great place to work. You have a lot of different products, a lot of I think just listening to you there, and obviously looking at the business prior to this, the different obviously markets that you have. Obviously, you said we were chatting off camera, but before we started, but you sort of obviously export to different countries, got a lot of clients. I mean, how you got a sort of a lot of countries that you deal with?
Yeah, a lot of countries, which comes with its own challenges because each country has a different culture.
Yeah.
The attitudes towards sexual wellness are different with each one. So you have to be really careful of how you're marketing and what messages you're putting out there. So, for example, we've recently moved into the Middle East. There's a lot of products that we wouldn't be able to market in those countries. And we have to stay respectful to those cultures. People have different reasons for wanting to purchase. I know typically in the Middle East, it's more of a contraception reason. Whereas definitely in the UK, Europe and USA especially, we're moving towards more of the pleasure side of things. And that is people's kind of reason for wanting to purchase.
Very different markets then, very different cultural perceptions, very different sort of when you're approaching these markets with your marketing and your sales team, the approach. You can really make some big mistakes, obviously, if you're not experienced. What would you say, brands that are listening in that are maybe selling products that have similar, these sort of, I would call them challenges, or you've got to have an understanding of your different cultural perceptions in different countries. How could brands sort of start to sell products into some of these countries? What sort of things should they be thinking about?
I think, and a big one for us is actually working with your customers in those countries. A lot of the customers that we have in different countries, we will give them the rights to represent Skins as a brand in their own country as well. So they will put out content adhering to our brand guidelines. And we'll own the domains and we'll own the usernames. But we will give them those rights to be able to represent us in their country. They know that market really well. And that is, that's been really beneficial for us.
Now, you might be looking for an SEO boost, a down-to-earth digital PR campaign to share your story, or maybe just some straightforward technical help to amp up your performance. Now, that's where eCom Now comes in. A partner that's all about making things easier for your online store. Our services cover everything from creating professional content for your e-commerce categories to refining your product descriptions. Now, whether you're just starting out or have been in it for a while, we're here to deliver real, impactful results that add to your bottom line without unnecessary commitments. You can order one-off or multiple projects with a quick turnaround. Simply choose what you need.
So is that like a franchising licensing agreement that you do with each country, or is it quite different to that?
So they will have the distribution rights potentially in those countries. They will be the only distributor that can distribute Skins, and it will be written into our contract that, as part of that, we will allow them the rights to the brand.
Interesting. So let's talk e-commerce for a while. Obviously you've got a few. We've got a lot. I think quite a few channels that we talked about. B2B, pharmacies, and different countries. But I think you're very much responsible for the D2C side. Is that right? So talk to me about your strategy and what's been successful to increase sales this last the time you've been there. What's been the strategy and what's the upcoming strategy?
So typically, Crepe Conception's been going for over 20 years. They've done incredibly well with that business. I mean, hats off to the owners, Jane and Richie. They have grown it from the ground up, built from the ground up. And especially back when they started, the attitudes towards sex was so different to how they are now. So they pushed through a lot of barriers to get to where we are today. And typically the business has always been B2B. So we sell to other businesses who then stock in their store. So Ann Summers, Love Honey, for example, in the UK. However, most pleasure brands across the world have their own B2C channels as well. We hadn't really explored that up until me coming along in January. So the B2B side we've always been really great at. B2C, not so much. So we have our own Shopify channels, our own websites, but really the performance on them was just a drop in the ocean to where they could be getting. So one of the first things I did when I came in January was take a look at the Skins website, which still is definitely in progress. But we did a lot of SEO work to that, a lot of changes. Looking at the consumer journey as well. So once they land on the site, what's their user experience like? And as a result, our sales revenue in the last 6 months is up 300% on the previous period.
Got on SEO.
Yeah. And our clicks are up 500%.
Yeah.
And our impressions are up 450%.
Wow.
So
it's almost like you've done SEO before, maybe.
I know. Who would have thought? Who would have thought? So, but to me, that was so exciting because you can see the direct result.
And that's in sort of 6 months or 6 months, 8 months.
Even in month one, we saw a difference. Which, I mean, you probably know yourself. Often your SEO results don't come that quickly. You'd expect maybe 3 months, 6 months. It's a process. But when that direct correlation was coming in, I found that really exciting.
So what sort of things were you doing on the SEO side? Was it mainly on page and reworking that customer flow and the templates or the landing pages and the meta and the product descriptions and the categories and that sort of
So the website itself, it had a lot of content on there that was fairly outdated. We'd worked in the past with embarrassing bodies, and some of the content was all mainly around our collaboration with embarrassing bodies. So that got hidden from the website because I think it kind of gave a perception if you landed on the site, and I think also our history page hadn't really been updated, the blogs hadn't been updated. For someone new to land on our site, they'd probably think, is this business still going? You know, so I looked at it with a fresh pair of eyes. Completely redid all the navigation. To what would I want to see as a buyer? We looked at our competitors, how they structured their website. Added new categories on there. So initially, I think it was just like condoms, lube. I think were the only categories really. So we've now got different categories within those. We've got condoms, lubes, toys, the types of lubes, the types of condoms.
Subcats.
Yeah, the subcategories. Getting all those keywords in the product descriptions, in the category page text, in the metadata. And we've just kept adding. We look at our keywords, we review them all the time, and we keep adding to that. So we've now got like pleasure products for her, pleasure products for him, couples pleasure products. Anything that people are searching for, we want to get in on. But we'll also review our keywords kind of fortnightly basis at the moment. And if we've seen a decline in keywords or if we're getting towards page one, we'll take that list of keywords and formulate a blog article around that topic. So, for example, rose toy might not mean anything to you.
Definitely not.
Some of the listeners might know what I'm talking about.
Do we have one here by any chance?
We do.
Do you want to just
Shall I?
Maybe you hold it. I'm not sure on that. So that's a rose toy.
So this is just one example of a rose toy. But rose toys were trending on TikTok at the start of this year and last year. Most brands now have some kind of form of a rose toy. Our brand is different in the sense that each of our roses got different functions. They're not just different colours, they've all different sensations as well. But the keywords for rose toys, we have really focused on that. So we will have, we've got a blog article that's about which rose toy shall I choose or what actually are rose toys.
But that idea came from the fact that it was trending on TikTok. I think that's a key thing, isn't it? When I'm just thinking about the listeners now, when you're looking at ideas to create new, whether it's new categories or content for blogs or, where's an opportunity? This is something we do day in, day out here. Obviously looking, on, search engines, i.e. TikTok, bit of a clue, what is trending. If you can capture that attention, it might be, quite short-lived, but then who knows where that ripples to. Capture and get in front of that demand for this particular product, which is what you did,
And that's exactly it, because the keywords rose toy were trending on TikTok, but actually there was no real explanation of what is rose toy? You could see visually, but so then people were going to Google to type in what is rose toy, and then as a result, we have capitalized on those keywords, and our
FAQs, description,
our best-selling product now on the Skins website is the rose toys.
Result.
So that has massively helped to drive our revenue.
So obviously a very fun set of products, I would say. You can have we've had a bit of a giggle before we hit record, haven't we? Sitting here with a selection of various things. Obviously it must be quite a fun environment to work when you're coming up with ideas for, especially in the marketing team. Maybe the warehouse guys probably have a bit of fun as well, I'm sure. But what's probably the most fun campaign that you've worked on? Maybe it's the rose one. But you must have had some sort of quirky campaigns that you worked on fun campaigns.
I know this sounds really kind of a cliche, but everything that we do is there's never a dull day. Never a dull day. It's impossible in this industry. So everything that we've worked on is really exciting, genuinely. And it's hard, even in, I've been there for 8 months. It's hard to even narrow down which was my favourite. But I think if I had to give an answer and nail it down to one, there is an event in London that takes place generally every 3 months, and it's called the Big Bosom Brunch. Or Big Bosom Brunch, I always say it wrong. And it was put together by this lady called Jackie Adedeji, this incredible lady, and it's all about body positivity, female empowerment, feeling confident in your own skin. Yeah. And typically it's for curvier women, name clues in the name, people with bigger boobs that maybe felt, kind of can feel sexualized, or the bodies aren't typically represented in mainstream media. And it's a really, really fun, positive event. And we reached out to Jackie on Instagram. I was like, I've seen the event. I absolutely love it. This works so well with the whole female pleasure, female empowerment. Our brand and our products tie into that perfectly. I was like, we'd love to be a part of it if you'd let us. Which I think she was honoured about, actually, because it's I think they've just celebrated their year anniversary of the brunch's beginning. But actually, we were the first brand to ever reach out to them and say, can we get involved? And we went and we hosted a game of bingo, so called the Big Bosom Brunch Bingo. And the prizes were, I'll leave it to the imagination. And it was actually really nice because it fell on the weekend of International Women's Day. So as part of it, everyone that won the prize, when they come up, they had to, they'd have a prize to themselves, but they also nominated a prize to another woman in the room and had to give that woman a compliment or say something that was nice. Oh, wow. And it was such an amazing day to be a part of. It was just really empowering. I've never seen such a fantastic group of women in one room, really building each other up. And it was great for the brand. We had a lot of people sharing. Everyone left with goodie bags. People were tagging us on socials afterwards.
I did see it. Yeah.
And we're doing another one actually in September. But Jackie now is, she's doing a lot of influencer bits. She's been on the Love Island podcast. So she is becoming quite a big figure herself, which, we kind of bought into it early.
That's great. That is a great story. I think trying to sort of tie in with partnerships, working with brands, influencers, but obviously then ultimately you're going to an event there with people that are inspiring potential customers, and the sort of the ripple effect of things like that. Going to events in your industry, is, I think so many e-com stores, they sort of sit in their warehouse and don't get out there and get the brand.
Yeah, you have to put yourself out there.
It's quite sort of sad to see, it's more and more like that. We talk about going to events, I know you've been to we talk about the IRX in the UK quite a lot. Obviously, I know I've met you there, sort of thing, about 3 years ago. So I think, the people that you meet and then the relationships that you form and the friendships and obviously business whether that's partnerships or actual business. And
yeah, and it's very true actually, because as part of going to that event, and we went as ourselves really, we went representing the brand, but we also went to just be us and have a good time as well, which people liked because we weren't there trying to sell to them.
Yeah.
You know, nobody likes to be sold to. No. And there was another brand that were at the event as well, and I made friends with a lovely girl from their team who was in their social media team. As a result of that, we did a brand collaboration with this brand, and we did a giveaway on social media and gained a significant amount of followers from that. Yeah. And that was just a conversation. Yeah. You know, I think you should always talk to everyone. Yeah. And you will find opportunities everywhere. Yeah. Once you start looking for them, even sometimes not looking for them, they just happen to come about.
You're covering a lot of ground, Lucy, aren't you? There, no, in terms of like I'm thinking like you got there, you're covering the SEO, you touched on the B2B at the beginning, but we're doing collaborations, we're doing events, we're then building these relationships, doing other collaborations online. It's sort of that's how. I think it's brilliant, absolutely brilliant.
Yeah,
so
there's a lot going on. It's been a busy 8 months.
So I think, obviously we're seeing more and more investment, if you like, from an agency's perspective and brand perspective on TikTok. We've just hired, actually, when this airs, we'll have new people in our team purely on TikTok, on the TikTok side of things. Yeah. For brands that are a little more hesitant to commit to TikTok and show their maybe real selves, what would you say to those guys, about getting out there?
I think, and I've experienced this as well in agency life, the reluctancy to want to get on TikTok. But actually, and I think one of the reasons for that is people think Gen Z, it's just the teenagers. It's really not. And TikTok is fast becoming, a replacement search engine for Google. Yeah. People are going to TikTok to find new things, especially if you're in tourism, for example. Yeah, it's the go-to. I mean, speaking from experience, if I'm going out to London or anywhere, you're on it. The first place I go to now is TikTok. Yeah. And I think one of the reasons for that as well is that actually in Google, especially, to be at number one, you'll have to put in a lot of time and effort, often spend resource into that. With TikTok, it's kind of a bit of an even playing field for everyone. If I was to type best restaurants in Lincoln, it's going to be the long-standing restaurants that are going to come up on TripAdvisor because they've got thousands of reviews, or the people who have been working on optimizing their site for a long time and their domain has that authority, so they're showing up high. Yeah. But actually, with TikTok, you've got a fresh new platform. You really could, and there's such a great potential on there. But I'd also say that TikTok is a really great way of showing the people behind the scenes. Yeah. People don't necessarily like to be sold to. They want to see who they're buying from. Yeah. And we definitely found, especially on Creative Conceptions, we've got such an amazing team, like genuinely just such a fun, really, really dedicated team. And the Instagram especially, and I'm going to move into a bit of Instagram Reels because that's fairly similar to the TikTok side of things, applicable to both. But we found the growth on the Instagram page was really non-existent. So we'd always be pushing out, typically, historically, would be, here's our new product, here's our new product, here's a new product, buy this product. Who is that resonating with? Nobody wants to see that. Every once in a while is fantastic. But actually, if we're putting out videos of the team and we've done this trip to Barcelona, and here's us getting on the plane, here's a montage of the highlights and the funny parts, and here's a video from our comms day. Our customers are then liking that, they're sharing that, they're commenting on that. It's almost building that relationship in a weird way. Our customers think they know us, which they do because we have very close contact with them. But putting your face out there and your team out there on platforms like TikTok and Instagram Reels is a great way to kind of engage with a new audience.
I think if you look at our TikTok, I'm on there. Yeah,
quite a celebrity.
Oh well, I don't know about that, but they dragged me into a TikTok. They goes, right, we're doing this TikTok on. It was an award thing that I downplayed it now a little bit. We got nominated for one of the best places to work in the UK, which, just a little thing, but I thought it was pretty cool.
Just a
so
little.
The guy
really
said,
minor.
"Oh, let's do a TikTok." I'm like, yeah, let's do that. And then the next thing I know, I'm on TikTok 2 days later with all the but it was on one of the trends on TikTok, and it's interesting, isn't it? I think when I've just come back from a couple of weeks trip away, and some of the places we went. Well, the majority of the places we went, were based on what the younger crew and us as well, they go, I've just looked on this on TikTok, and even now we're back. I went with my friends and their family, and their daughter is my goddaughter, and she dropped in the family WhatsApp group, or like two families WhatsApp group last night. It's like all these TikToks of the various places we went to, and we went to different restaurants, bars, and sort of landmarks and whatnot. TikTok, and I think there's a bit of a clue here, guys. If you're still with us, to get what that's going to do, it's going to open up all sorts of things. Like when we use TikTok in our agency to get ideas, for, like we talked about a minute ago, for the SEO sort of angles, for digital PR. If something is happening on TikTok and trending, you can then create a story out of that on other platforms, whether that's SEO, or that's you're going to create a piece to then reach out to journalists, and they'll go, I saw that on TikTok. Well, there's no surprise with reaching out to you with that, because we know it's trending on TikTok, and therefore, we have a big screen in our office, and one of the, when it rolls over, is pulling trends from TikTok. So then the guys see latest trends coming through, and then when we're looking for inspiration and ideas to build into our campaigns, to go, this is trending. But I think, still the amount of our listeners that will not be using it, it's very surprising. Very surprising.
Yeah, it's also been a really good platform for us, because we've very much found in the adult industry, you can't put a lot of stuff on TikTok. We've had a lot of content shadow banned or taken down in the early days, because you can't have anything socially suggestive on there, which makes sense. But actually, being able to put videos out there, and Love Honey do this really well as well, is doing fun videos with the team, things that aren't anything to even do with the product. Yeah. But you're seeing the brand.
Product in the shots, really?
We try and get it in.
Yes. Yeah. It's not front and centre, because it might get banned. Yeah.
We'll try and have, some kind of angle that makes sense to the brand. But it's helping to get the brand out there. People are following you because they find your videos funny. Yeah. And we're still very much in the early days of growing our TikTok account. Yeah. But we've just started to figure it out. We've just got to the point where we're like, actually, all these videos that we're getting no views and no likes because we're trying to sell something. Yeah. And now we're trying to be a bit funny. The unicorn TikTok does really well.
I don't know what the unicorn is. Oh, do we have a unicorn? Should we have a look at the unicorn?
Magic.
Oh, the unicorn.
So these are vibrators that look like unicorns. So TikTok hasn't figured out yet what they are.
They think it's a little baby unicorn.
They do. So these are brilliant on TikTok, because when you turn them on, they vibrate and they move. They look cute. You can kind of do dancing trends with them. Yeah. But they do really well on TikTok. Yeah. People find it funny. Even some of the comments, we've got comments before like, this is the best TikTok I've seen. You guys are killing your marketing. And I'm like,
the unicorn, what a name. Did you guys come up with a name?
Yes, I wasn't there when they came into conception, but that was the work of our owner.
So we've covered a lot of channels, a lot of different campaigns you've worked on. If I was to sort of say, right, Lucy, what is the best channel for you at the moment? What is your best channel?
SEO.
Yeah.
For sure. If anyone needs help with SEO. I think especially with SEO is, say, for example, PPC. I'm not knocking it. If you want more instant results, PPC is probably your way to go. Mm-hmm. But when people are reluctant to be spending ad spend, SEO is a really great way to get more traffic to your site without having to pay that ad spend. Obviously, you're investing in the time and the resource to get there, but it's attainable for everyone, and it's something that every brand, if you've got an e-commerce presence and a website, you know, it's a no-brainer. You should be doing SEO on that. And for us, we've just seen just how much potential it can unlock. We're 6 months in and we've seen massive increases in traffic and revenue just from making some of those changes.
Yeah, it's obviously, well, like most industries, it is a competitive industry. To be able to obviously go in there with your knowledge and sort of shift the needle that quick, that much, impressive. Well done.
And to be fair, sometimes I'd love to say it's because I've got all this experience and I'm great at it, but sometimes it is by pure fluke almost as well. You know, I've worked with clients in the past where it's taken us a year to get to that stage. And it all depends on the competitiveness of that industry and how many people are kind of bidding on those keywords or you know, including those keywords in their content.
So let's talk about sort of the future plans. So obviously 2 brands we're talking here. We've got Skins and Creative Conceptions. You know, what's on the roadmap for both of the brands?
Mainstream at the moment is one of our biggest focus. So especially in the UK, people are becoming more and more accepting sexual wellness and sexual health. You know, we talk about physical health, mental health, but we don't really talk about sexual health. There's still quite a stigma around it. And actually, there are so many benefits that having, you know, great sexual health has on your wider mental health. It's scientifically proved. And the mainstream are definitely opening up to that. They know there's a big demand for these kind of products. And we've got the likes of Boohoo that have come on board with Nasty Gal. Typically brands that would just sell fashion. They're starting to venture into sexual wellness. I mean, I've just seen on LinkedIn yesterday, I think Love Honey have got a store now in one of the airports, one of the major airports. These are things you'd never see on the shelves back in the day. So there is a really big opportunity for us at the moment to be creating a new product that really caters to the demand of that mainstream audience. A lot of our packaging and our branding team that are all in-house, we create brands as well that are approachable to pick up off the shelves. Typically, there's, you know, when you think of sex toys, you think of kind of very intimidating looking items.
I was a bit worried what you might bring in.
Whereas we're really focused on making sure there's something that's accessible. There's products now that we can have in pharmacies, sexual wellness products that we can have in a pharmacy, which says a lot because, you know, typically it'd just be your medicines, your prescription. We've now got toys in there that look approachable and have that kind of...
a lot more mainstream. More... not a bit more...
acceptable.
It's acceptable sizing.
I think part of it is, you know, you want to create something that people are going to feel comfortable to pick up off the shelves. And, you know, if you haven't got that, people aren't going to buy. So,
Well, Lucy, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the show. I like to end every episode with a book recommendation. Do you have a book to recommend to our listeners?
So for me, and you'll hear this probably a lot, but Stephen Bartlett, Diary of a CEO.
Oh, okay.
I absolutely adore the podcast. And
he does a podcast, does he?
Does he? Oh my God, no. Not as good as this one. But I think there's a lot that you can take from that. And personally and professionally.
Fantastic.
I've taken a lot away from that.
Well, I will, not begrudgingly, but I will link up Stephen Bartlett's podcast to the show notes. But thank you, Lucy, for coming on the show. For those that want to find out more about Skins and Creative Conceptions, and what's the best way to do that, and also to if they want to reach out to you.
So you can find me on LinkedIn. I'm Lucy Robinson. I have tried to make sure that I'm the top one that comes up. I think we're getting there. There are a lot of Lucy Robinsons. And again, Creative Conceptions and Skin Sexual Health both on LinkedIn as well. So give us a follow.
We'll link those up in the show notes. Well, thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
If you enjoyed this episode, hit the subscribe or follow button wherever you are listening to this podcast. So you're always the first to know when a new episode is released. Have a fantastic day, and I'll see you on the next one.